we're doing for legalization of marijuana. And first point I have is 7 months after Colorado moved to regulate and tax the substance, marijuana prosecutions went down 77%, and burglaries and robberies are down as well from a year ago. And the state alone has collected $23.6 million in revenue from taxes, licenses, and fees. And that was from the Liberal Party of Canada's website, as they're trying to push forward and legalize it up here in Canada as well.
Prohibition for alcohol did not work, and it's not working for marijuana. When alcohol was illegal, they had the belief that making something illegal would make it disappear over time, which obviously didn't work. And it's the same thing for marijuana. The best we can do is just control and regulate it.
We believe marijuana should not be legalized because of, well, negative health effects, or negative mental and physical health effects. Also the gateway effect it has, leading to other possible drug use. And also when legalizing it, there's definitely going to be a possible monopolization of the industry, like just how alcohol or cigarettes have been. And also, lastly, we're going to talk about the possible appeal of marijuana products when they become legal to the youth, because when they make them legal, they come up with things like edibles and stuff that appeal to like children and stuff, like gummy bears, THC gummy bears and chocolates and stuff. But yeah.
Okay, so there's the intro. Onto your 4 points. Go back to this side.
$246,810,599 was the amount of profit just in recreational marijuana sold, and $326,716,000 was the amount of money they made just off medical patients. And usually they use those for severe pain, epilepsy. I have epilepsy, and I have a green card, and it works for me. I smoke it at night, done. It's worked for me, and it's cheap, and I love it.
Every day our kids are turning to dealers, gangs, and criminals to buy marijuana, which is put them into harm's way. So for most kids, buying marijuana is easier than buying cigarettes. April 2013 United Nations Children's Fund study found that at 28%, Canada leads the developed world in cannabis use among teenagers, which means that the current approach obviously isn't working to keep it out of teenagers' hands.
You know, the negative health effects of marijuana, it really they talk about using it for treatment of some certain diseases. Like some of the stuff that people talk about is HIV and AIDS treatment with marijuana, but it has been proven through tests and medical testing and everything that it actually lowers the immune system, and although it may treat it, it prevents the overall curing of diseases and sickness and anything like that. So, and then the gateway effect, it goes into people start smoking weed, they're in places where they're buying weed, doing drugs, and there's other drugs around that associate with the marijuana. People who are selling these marijuana, they also have these other drugs, and it makes it that much easier for people to get their hands on these drugs. So like cocaine, heroin, and stuff like that comes out when people start smoking marijuana and buying it.
So there's also the possible monopolization of the industry. They say we want to legalize it, or at least to criminalize it, to stop putting people in jail just for pretty much not severe crimes or whatever, and treating them like criminals. But I think it's more the people in charge, the governments and big companies, probably be easy for tobacco companies to move in on this, and it's just another thing they can take over and create an easy profit off of really fast. And I doubt how smoking, they didn't really like, it's not, it just recently it's been like shown that they're trying to like stop to get kids off of it and make it like not like apparent out in the public or pervasive in the public, I guess you say. But yeah, I just believe that like that's just companies like the rich, the already rich, are just gonna use this to get richer off it. And I'm just gonna say, he said it's 2 points, so I'll just say that 2 points. And the appeal of marijuana products to youth and stuff, like now that in the states in America that have legalized it have gone on to make like edibles and stuff for people who like smoking pot doesn't appeal to, but just eating like a pack of gummy bears or like a chocolate or something isn't that big a deal with them. So, and like this stuff appeals to children too when they see like marijuana like being sold on the street corners or like in stores and stuff, and then these candies and stuff, and you see like how it's not like a bad stigma around it as much as like smoking cigarettes or drinking is. People kind of like pass it off as like, oh, it's a fun thing, and you know, get high, you get happy or whatever, but it's like the effects that it has on teens is shown that like but this is with heavy use, I guess. Heavy users experience as much as like an 8-point IQ loss over like the course of like 4 years, 5 years actually, said. And when they move these pot stores into, they're not gonna put them like in like Heritage or some nice place or like up in uplands. They're gonna put it in the already impoverished neighborhoods where there's like plenty of liquor stores and stuff like that. So they're just gonna make like another like, I guess, influencing type substance or possibly harmful substance available. So like, and it's gonna be prominent in like impoverished neighborhoods and stuff. So just creating more problems that way, like kids getting high and people getting high, trying to escape from the problems.
You guys each did your 4 points?
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Pot's just too expensive for our justice system, you guys. It's not smart to put criminal people away, calling them criminals. 750,000 people a year get arrested and thrown in just for simple marijuana possession charges. It's diverting time from our police, attorneys, judges, corrections officials, and it's taking them away from like violent crimes such as sex abuse, terrorism, all kinds of murders and stuff like that. And furthermore, taxation of marijuana can provide a needed and generous funding that many important criminal justice social programs need at this point.
I think if they that's a good point, but I think if they legalized it, like the people who are already selling it, say they're like lifelong dealers or something, they aren't just because weed's legal now. They could either adapt and become like a big time grower and try to evolve with the industry as it moves along. But there's only gonna be so many jobs for those people like making that move. So then the person who's sold weed all their life, whatever, is not gonna be like, oh, it's legalized, I'm gonna go to school and be a lawyer now. Probably gonna think about another way, another illicit activity he could use or he could do to get money and stuff. So I think that just like create like even like a harsher drug problem in a sense that like these people that already are involved in that type of activity would just move on to something more serious.
Well, you said that the kids might be appealed to it because of the edibles that they put out. But if it's legal, they will have restrictions on it, just like they do alcohol and tobacco. You have to be 18, and you won't be able to go buy it unless you are. And they also make alcoholic chocolates and edibles that I know of, which hasn't really changed.
There's a store on like the corner. I'm sure when you were underage, if you wanted to drink, there was nothing stopping you, especially there just being a store right there and stuff. You have people around you that are of age.
But that's the thing. Like, if they're gonna legalize marijuana, kids are gonna get it regardless, just like they did with cigarettes, just like they've done with alcohol in the past. And whether it's from a drug dealer in a gang across in their neighborhood, or from one of their buddies' dads got a green card and he pitched it out of his top drawer and he sold it to his buddy, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna find their way. But with government controlling it, I think it's a lot better than having these kids buy it and get involved with gangs and then end up in jail. And then ultimately we end up paying for their food, whatnot.
What's stopping like when it's illegal now, there's always the fear that you're gonna get caught with this, and there's the repercussions of doing that if you're underage. Like if you're 16, like I'm assuming if they made it legal, they'd say 18 and under, you can't touch this. But if they do that, they're gonna get someone who's like he said, 20 or something. They're gonna go get that person to buy it for them, and no one's gonna like bother them about it because when they're smoking it on their own, because like, oh, there's a guy over there smoking weed.
But at this point, it's easier for someone to get marijuana than it is like an underage person to get marijuana than it is to
Yeah,
get
but
smoked.
there's still the fear of them getting caught doing it, that which will stop them from, in at least some way, there's repercussions of doing that. But if they're underage and doing it on, like, if you see a guy, if it was legal, like right now, cigarettes are legal to smoke, and
Right.
if you see a guy doing that, no one says anything.
But for a 16-year-old kid to get a
Someone
$250 fine for having marijuana on him, I mean, I never had that kind of money just floating around when I was 16 years old. You know,
Isn't that gonna happen? Well, like,
there's still, I mean, they'll take your pack of smokes away, and they'll, in some cases, fine you for having a pack of smokes on if you're underage.
but it's proven that like this is illegal for a reason. Like it's the health effects and everything like that, and we're trying to. That's the regulations that you're talking about. It's already regulated. This is the regulations we have already for it. Like
Right, but if, like, for the health-wise, I mean, there are goods that come out of the health specter. I have epilepsy. I've had it since I was 13 years old.
And that's what we have
when I
like,
was 16
medical
years
marijuana for.
old, though, like I said, Mom, let's go to the doctor and see if I can get medical marijuana. And I mean, when we went there, I thought it wasn't gonna happen. And when I told him what I needed it for, and it was just to go to sleep at night, calm me down, settle my anxiety down so I can go to sleep at night. That was all I needed it for, and that's why I got it. And I got my green card, and it just.
Then why bother?
Time.
Okay, great work for the open debate.
Yes, you know, like the health effects of it, and just the fact that it's caused like people smoking marijuana, the gateway effect is still there, and the monopolization of it, and people aren't gonna just suddenly like, oh, it's legal and I can't get a job doing this, so they're not just gonna suddenly turn their life around. They're gonna move on to other drugs to sell. And then the culture that it creates, the whole thing is, it makes it seem like it's a lot better than, like it's a lot more better for you than it really is. They just ignore the other health effects of it and glorify the negative side, the positive sides of it. But there's those few positive sides, and then there's all these other proven studies that, you know, are negative health effects. And if it's illegal, if it's made legal, they're gonna ignore all these negative health effects and glorify these few, like, positive effects of it. Alright, and that's why we feel it should stay illegal.
So a big arguing point of why it should be illegal is because of the health risks. 2.5 million people have died each year from alcohol. 0 people have died due to marijuana. And yet alcohol is legal and marijuana is not. You'd actually have to smoke 20,000 to 40,000 times more than a joint to actually have a chance of dying.
And for like the money-wise, more money now with it being illegal is going into drug dealers' pockets, like gangs' pockets. Which, I mean, if that money was going into the government's pocket, it'd be coming back to us and say social programs for criminals coming in and out of jail, getting back on their feet, stuff like that. You can come back and help our communities more with the money that's being generated from the sales of marijuana. And that's why we believe pot should be legalized.
Great work, everyone.
So terrorism should be allowed because we need to get information that is being withheld from us by terrorists who are desensitized to things. Also, it should we can prove that we're a strong country and that we can take care of ourselves
And I believe that we should also have to protect national security by torturing terrorists and not gathering information to show that that our country cannot be taken down easily anymore. Canada may be a peacekeeping country, but we cannot be as fragile as we are in today's age.
Alright. So we're against torture, and we believe torture is not effective in many ways. And some of those ways can be from people giving up fake information and just to get out of being tortured. And being in that situation, you're obviously not gonna want to be there anymore, and so you're gonna give them more information than what they really need and what you have. And indeed, more torture victims are not even capable of giving accurate information, and instead their main goal is to simply stop and get to their normal levels, so they're not gonna provide you with the accurate information, and it's not gonna be accurate.
Okay, so those are the opening statements, I believe. Yeah. Let's move on to the 4 points on each side. So we'll go back to this side. You guys make 2 points each for a total of 4 minutes, and then we'll switch to the other side.
I'll go 1, 3. You go 2, 4.
We should be allowed to gather information via torture, because if we don't, the terrorists are so desensitized to torture that they don't even know how to play good cop, bad cop. They'll be like, no man, I'm not going to give you any information. And so you have to be more forceful with them and show them that we mean business.
And who is really protecting the innocence and future generation of Canada? Like, we have to torture terrorists just so that we can protect future generations, to keep our country strong, and so on. Not to mention, terrorists gave up their rights just by terrorizing our country. So really, should we not attack them? Should we attack them? I think we should, because they're asking for it.
Also, we need to eliminate terrorism in our country, because have you heard about the guys who started lighting their passports on fire after they went back to their home country and joined ISIS? We need to show that we are strong and that Canada is not afraid.
Okay, those are the 4 points. Going over back to this side. You guys have 4 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. After World War II, and indeed after a whole bunch of different wars, but World War II specifically, those cooperating with the Axis were convicted of war crimes. Okay. Robert McNamara, who's the Secretary of Defense for the U.S., admitted in 2003 that if it had been the other way around, that if the Axis had won and the Allies had lost, it would have been them who had been convicted of war crimes. And torture being one of them. And torture has been convicted in war crimes. Plenty. But what makes it a crime if you lose, but acceptable if you win? Is it not a crime just if it's a crime?
And do you know how many innocent people have endured torture in attempt to gain information? Well, neither do I. But I do know that this has happened. In Alex Gibney's Taxi to the Dark Side, he illuminates several these cases in one particular taxi driver who was tortured and killed at Guantanamo Bay. But how many do you think? Maybe a handful, if we are optimistic. But now consider what is acceptable, because it'll change. Then the number is 0.
I'm sorry, he's reading my note, which I read in a different accent, I think, so my apologies.
0 innocent people have tortured is only reasonable, acceptable number, and any more than that is not grossly criminal. But Helmus.
Okay, and we touched on this a little bit at the beginning there, but those being tortured, we talked a little bit about encoding and decoding messages. Those being tortured will often say things as desperation. For instance, claim they have information they don't actually possess. So it's just anything to be able to stop the torture. So if a terrorist gives you, let's say there's some really time-sensitive information, and this guy gives you information that is false or misleading or that he doesn't have, and we waste our resources tracking down that information, does that speed up the process? Is that a more effective way, or is that a less effective way? Why not try to get the proper information, the correct, acute information the first time without putting the person under duress?
And what is the mindset of torture? And we talked about this in class about encoding and decoding messages. Not only is one being tortured, not in the mind to disclose information as effectively as they could under other circumstances, but one of those malice who is the aggressor, who is to say that they are in an ideal state of mind to be able to decode information in an effective way, an accurate way.
Okay.
Oh.
Scott.
Okay, let's go. You don't realize what we're doing to some of these people? Like, for example, stripping them of all their clothes and taking away their dignity and humiliating them in pictures. Or there's examples where a guy's he's got his foot cut off and he's got a prosthetic, and they're like, you don't get to sit down or lay down. You could actually just stand there for 180 hours. Or another one, they took this guy and they took this big pail of hummus and they just crammed it up his ass. They realize that if you're arguing for torture, you are. And I'm just, it sounds like I'm making a joke. That's actually a documented thing that they've done. If you're arguing for torture, you realize that you're arguing for these things to happen. Like, you're on pro forcing hummus up a man's ass.
Do you realize what they are doing to our country? Terrorizing inside of our gates, showing fear to our citizens. Is that right by any means necessary? No, it is not. So really, should we just let them go free by not torturing them?
No, but you're drawing a line. You're saying if it's not torture, it's letting them go free. You're saying the only way to fight fire is with fire.
If we weren't going to torture them, might as well not we set them free, because they're going to be sitting in jail, having the time of their lives, just sitting back.
Is the goal to hurt them if they hurt us, or is the goal to get them from stop hurting us?
We're not for retaliation, we're for intimidation, where we want to put the fear in them, like one person causing an entire country to have fear, not be able to sleep at night, to wonder if their government really can keep them safe. Yes, we can, if we use torture, to get information, because it's one person that we're torturing versus an entire country's safety.
I want to bring up one point with Omar Khadr. I think many people know about him, and he said he gave up fake info. He was actually here in Alberta, and he gave up fake info just to get himself out of being tortured, actually, and admitted to something that he didn't do. And how does that help anyone, really?
Well, it might as well get some information while we've gotten no information where we are right now.
But it's not even reliable information.
It's at least a lead to stand by. And
Ew.
that's where we have to get more information to find them.
What happens if the guy gives you false information and then you get another person who's arrested and tortured based on that false information? So now you've got this innocent guy who is giving up just whatever he can just to make the torture stop. Now you have another innocent guy just giving up what he can to make the torture stop.
Quick point.
What makes us better than the people that we're torturing?
Have you ever heard of a lie detector test?
Have you ever taken a lie
Okay, but is lie
detector
detector tests torture? Because you can argue for a
You
lie
don't
detector
understand.
test.
We torture the first person who terrorized our country. Then we use a lie detector test towards the people that are suspected to being terrorists. If they do not pass, well then they are thrown in jail. If they do pass, then they may go
Hold
off
on a
free.
second, but why wouldn't you just use the lie detector test on the first guy?
Because he already showed us that he is a terrorist. What's the point of using a lie detector on him?
Because what you're trying to do is get information. You want the terrorists to stop what they're doing.
What
So
does that
you would
help
like
with?
us to
So,
use the test.
or you could go, you know what, this basest, ugly part of humanity to say, well, they're terrorists, so I want to
Are
hurt
you
them.
stating that you would like us to actually use a lie detector test to torture terrorists?
No, I'm just saying, if the idea is to get information, then why not use the lie
First.
detector? Yeah, why not use the lie detector?
Might as well have some fun and torture them.
You're sick.
I was gonna say.
Sir, but that is not part of the debate. The debate is it
debate,
torture
yeah.
or is it not?
Well, I think torture can be sick in a way, to be honest, with the stuff you brought up.
Yeah.
Do you want hummus up your ass? Force up your ass?
Actually, I think that's a good point and funny way to actually torture someone. I would so be up for that because they have given up their rights for their freedom in this country. We should.
But they haven't, and we're in their country. We're torturing them in their area, not in ours.
We're talking about the terrorists in our country here. The terrorists that have gone against us. The
Well,
ones who have taken their passport, like we stated earlier, burned
And I
it
know, okay,
and
so
shot it.
let's. Are we going to classify terrorism in this? What about a guy who stomps on a puppy?
That's
Well,
not
so we're gonna-
terrorist
we're gonna
towards us.
torture him
That's
too?
a crime. He would be jailed for that. You're talking about terrorists and
No,
not
no,
getting
no.
off the
But
subject.
that guy's a heinous guy. Wouldn't we want to torture that
He
guy
is
too?
a heinous guy, but we are talking about terrorists.
I know,
we are
but
not
you could
talking
take
about
Time's
out
up.
this
Time's
Okay,
up.
great open debate,
You
guys.
guys start or what?
Unless you guys want to go right ahead.
You guys
No, no,
start.
no. I didn't know. I didn't know if we
Open.
switched. Who started?
We opened here.
So you opened. So you.
So
So
we
you
We'll
have to
close.
start.
So we closed.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead then. Yeah.
Okay. So terrorists have completely given up their rights in our country, and they should be tortured. For my final point, like I've stated a million times before, because of the huge fact that honestly, they're against us. So why not show that we do not fall down easy? We need to stop being such a fragile country and get off our lazy butts and show them that we can stand up for ourselves. Enough is enough. We cannot be this weak. Like, really, it is ridiculous.
So there was this study done. I think it was in Australia. They had there was 34 interrogators. They had them all in a room, and they investigated over 60 international terrorism subjects. They found some interesting things from these guys. They said there was actually better results when they would interrogate them in a more comfortable setting. Just much more comfortable setting. Be a jerk, be harsh, but just a more comfortable setting, they had better results. Confessions were actually 4 times more likely when the interrogators just were neutral. They weren't friendly, but neutral like a coffee table. They just did this, they had 4 times the better results. But when they built a rapport, when they actually built a rapport with the terrorists, connected with them on a personal level, 14 times more likely to disclose useful and pertinent information. If you're going to argue for torturing them and say, hey, we got to show strength because we'll just beat them up harder than they beat us up, is that Trump actually stopping them in the first place from doing it? The 14 times more likely to get actual information from them is far more useful, far more humane, and keeps us on a moral and intellectual high ground.